And all right. Syncing. 1 2 3 1 2 3. Okay, so it looks like it's up and running right now. It's actually, can I zoom in here? Can I zoom in a little bit here? Okay, never mind. It looks really close to this. Okay, so anyways, what's going on, guys? Welcome to yet another live stream slash video, late night live stream. It's 2:50 a.m. by the time I'm recording this. Don't worry, guys, I'm not feeling tired at all. I'm not feeling sleepy. Although by the time I end up recording this video, or by the time I end this live stream, I might just feel like a bit drowsy. I don't know. Anyways, today's topic, it's gonna be the. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so today's topic, it's gonna be my annual top 10 list of drivers that, or my annual list of how the top 10 drivers look like entering this season. Usual stuff. What's different, however, is that unlike the past couple of seasons that I've done this, the past couple of years, I always took who the top 10 drivers were and then just give my honorable mentions on it. Well, when I sat down and started my rough draft of this, of my top 10 list of who the top 10 drivers will be entering this season, and you know how I make this list by now. I take the drivers' performance of the past season, I take their performance over the past 3 seasons, and also I take what my expectation is for them for this season. So, for example, we are entering the year 2024. This weekend is the 2024 Daytona 500. So season has not officially started yet. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a driver's body of work over the past 3 seasons, and then I'm also gonna make a projection of how their 2024 season is gonna go. So as you can see here, this isn't really a top 10 list, and I might actually rename the stream later. This might be a top 15-ish list or whatever. But there are 17 drivers here. These are 17 drivers, although of these 17 drivers, more like 13 or so have a case to be top 10. But that's the main difference between this video and how I've been doing the previous videos, where I take the top 10 drivers and then give some honorable mentions too of who I feel they missed the cut. Like I said, this past year, the top 10 list, it was just very hard for me because so many drivers, so many good drivers like Chase Elliott, they had down years, and then you got drivers like Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski who had just bounce back years, and they managed to put themselves into the top 10 conversation. So it was just pretty hard because as you're gonna see eventually, every single driver, or there are several drivers that have a case to be top 5, and other drivers that have a case to be top 10. There are several drivers that have a case to be top 5. When I have I have my phone here with me with my notes, and as I can see here, yeah, let me pull up my notes real quick because to give you an idea of what you guys can expect on this video. See here. Okay, so I had 6 drivers that have a case to be a top 5, and I just couldn't. I, for the life of me, just could not leave any of these guys out of the top 5. And then when I went to the top 10, there were more drivers that I believe deserved to be in the top 10 that I just cannot leave out. So eventually I decided, instead of making like a top 10 list that is gonna be like very controversial, and I'm not very confident, like one day I could have one guy over the other. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the trusty tier maker and put them all on a tier list. Like you see who my number one driver is in my opinion, and then who is like in a top 5-ish driver, then who top 10-ish, like who has a case to be in a top 5 driver, who has a case to be a top 10 driver, and then who has a case to be a top 15 driver. I just went into the top 15 as well because I feel like there are a couple of drivers that can be like top 15, but yeah. As you can see, I actually branched out. I might actually go back and rename this stream when I wake up in the morning. I might actually rename it like top 15 drivers entering the 2024 season. Although again, it's more like a top 17 if we're being honest, because there are like 17 drivers over here. Also, a little bit of a spoiler warning. Tomorrow I'm gonna be live streaming the my playoff predictions for all 3 series, so you can expect that video coming like tomorrow night. I'm gonna try to record it before. I'm gonna try to live stream to be on the stream before midnight, but I can't promise anything. But anyways, a little spoiler warning here. These guys may or may not. Okay, I'm just actually gonna say it right now. These guys are gonna be my playoff drivers. One of these guys is gonna be left out, but these 17 guys, they're gonna be in the play. They're gonna be like my playoff drivers. These are all of these drivers that you're gonna see here, except one. Take a wild guess on who that is, but these 17 drivers, 16 are in my playoff predictions. Like, I already decided my playoff grid, and it's gonna be 16 of these 17 guys. So a little bit of a spoiler warning for tomorrow's video, so you guys can actually give yourself some idea, and you might actually, take a while if you're watching this video right now or before you go to my playoff predictions that I'm gonna record tomorrow. Whenever you watch this, okay, take a wild guess on who that driver is going to be. Okay, so anyways, let's get on with it. Who my number one driver is entering this season? It's gonna be Kyle Larson. Again, he's been one of the winningest drivers, or rather, winningest driver for the past 3 seasons. No driver in the past 3 years has scored more wins than Larson. 17 wins in the past 3 seasons, plus that 2021 title. He may still be riding that success high he may still be riding the momentum of that, 2021 title. Is much of my reason why I still have it number one. But Larson, he still had a very solid season in 2023. 4 wins that could have been so much more. There was a time where Larson was like checkers or wreckers, and that stayed true even all the way into the playoffs. Remembering that that blunder he made at Homestead. But anyways, at the end of the day, Larson, he finished second in points. If Blaney's car didn't come to life at Phoenix, he could have had a very good chance of winning the title. It was down to him, Byron, and Blaney. Blaney's car just came to life in the second half. And yeah, Larson is just feel like at this point he's still number one. He's still the best, most I wouldn't say he's the best racer on the planet, but as far as NASCAR driver goes, because Larson, he's not just racing in NASCAR, he races in dirt. He's also going to be racing IndyCar this season. He's done a couple of testings at Phoenix. He's also going to be running the Indy 500 and the Coke 600. He's going to attempt the Memorial Day double with Indy 500 and the Coke 600. So that's definitely something to look forward to when it comes to Larson. So anyways, Larson is a very versatile driver, and whatever he whatever he gets behind the wheel on, he can go out there and produce results. The guy's just a natural talent, and he is still, as of right now, entering the season, Larson is the number one guy. Again, season hasn't started yet. This is not taking into account what may happen, but I do think Larson is going to be once again championship 4 threat. Winning the title, not really. I don't even have him winning the title, as a matter of fact. And this just is perfect segue into the next driver that I'm going to talk about. The guy that is my actual championship pick and Toyota's best driver. It's not Denny Hamlin. It's Christopher Bell. We got to start talking about Christopher Bell as Toyota's main guy. Like, at this point, we just have to talk about Christopher Bell as the number one guy for Toyota. It's no longer Hamlin. Don't let that. Don't let his regular season success fool you. We've been on that story again. I am familiar with this game. Christopher Bell is the new face of Toyota. Back-to-back championship 4 appearances. The most wins in the Gen 7 era for Toyota, tied with Hamlin, but then again, Hamlin doesn't have any championship 4 appearances in this new generation of car. And Bell, he has managed to win 3 of those wins have come in the playoffs, which is again a guy that he's just clutch. Again, unlike Hamlin, Christopher Bell is clutch. So, because of that, and because he has come close so many times, I feel like third time's a charm. Christopher Bell, a top 5 driver in my opinion, or at the very least a driver that has a case to be a top 5 driver. I would even go as far as to say Christopher Bell has a case to be a top 3 driver. But I mean, I know some people are going to push back at me saying that Hamlin is still the best Toyota driver. In my opinion, it's Christopher Bell. 2 championship 4 appearances. That's all I need to say. And because of that, and the fact that he has already made it to championship 4 in back-to-back years, I feel like third time's a charm. And Bell is going to hoist the cup at season's end on this 2024 season. Speaking of cups, let's go into the defending series champion, Ryan Blaney. Blaney, you know, when I made this list last year, entering like the 2023 season, I said that Blaney was one of the most, if not the most, overrated driver in NASCAR, simply because he always, every time people always hype him up, only for him to always come up short. And I cited his 2021 season as the year where he could have made the championship 4, but in the end he just could not. He just failed to, and because of that, I was extremely disappointed in him. I didn't say he was overrated simply because I hated him. I just said he was I said he was overrated simply more out of disappointment, because I actually like Ryan Blaney and I wanted to see him, you know, fulfill the potential that the fans hype him up to be. Well, this season he finally proved me wrong, and he caught fire in the final 6 races of the season when it mattered most. You know, you can say whatever you want about this playoff format. You know, I've already said my piece about it and how, you know, it's not the best way to crown a champion in my opinion. But I'm going to say this. What this format does is bring the best out of drivers on high-pressure situations. You know, we've already talked about Christopher Bell. And Ryan Blaney, once again, he is just another one of those guys that just on the right time. I'm not saying Ryan Blaney is clutch, but that 2023 title run, those final 6 races of 2023, he looked like the best driver down the stretch. And you know, if that's what the playoff format rewards, you just gotta play by those rules, and that's exactly what Ryan Blaney did. He may not have been the best driver overall, but he definitely was. He definitely was the best when it mattered most. He definitely earned it. He wasn't the most deserving one, but he went out there and earned it. speaking of the driver that I believe was the best driver of 2023, and who, if it was a full season format, he would have been the champion. Let's talk about William Byron next. Byron just had a breakout season in this past season, 2023. With Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott suffering from injuries, we were all wondering who was gonna take on the man, who was gonna, step up for Hendrick. We all looked at Larson, but we also looked at Byron too, because Larson, as good as Larson is, he wasn't gonna be able to carry an entire organization in Hendrick by himself. He needed somebody alongside him. Byron was that guy, and not only did Byron help carry Hendrick alongside Larson this past season, he actually scored more wins than Larson. Now, if I made this list solely off of their performance last season, I would have put Byron much higher. Maybe, he would have made a case you could make a case for Byron to be the best driver, but if I were to rank the drivers based on who had the best 2023 season overall, I would say, Byron had the best season, but this is the first time we have seen, William Byron just with championship level expectations. Again, just like Larson, I do expect Byron to, at the very least, compete for a championship 4. I don't know if he's gonna make it, because with several big players like Chase Elliott returning, Joey Logano, even year Logano, it's an even year, and Logano on even years, he also tends to turn into his even year voodoo magic and perform pretty well. Like every other year, Logano is just turns into a different animal. It's just perplexing. But anyways, I feel like this year the championship 4 is gonna be pretty tough, especially with, again, drivers like Elliott returning, Logano having a bounce back year, or at the very least I expect Logano to have a bounce back year. Hamlin's still gonna be there. Could watch out for Chastain and Reddick as potential dark horses. It's gonna be pretty rough for William Byron to justify making it in. Now, that's not to say that he's not gonna have a bad season. He's still gonna do his thing. I don't think he's gonna win 6 races like he did last year, but 3 wins, maybe 4. That's a reasonable expectation. A round of 8, it's pretty much like what you should expect out of him. Championship 4, though, I'm not so sure. That depends on how the season plays out. I might go back, once the playoffs roll around, I'm always going to make like my own playoff predictions with the drivers that make it in. So, depending on how Byron does in the regular season, then I'm going to have a clearer picture on if he is, in my opinion, going to make the championship 4 or not. Still too early to tell. He got a case to make it, but not at the moment. But at the moment, it's like it's very hard. To me, my preseason championship 4 is like Larson, Bell, Logano, and then, I don't know, Larson, Bell, Logano, and then either Chase Elliott or Byron or Blaney or Reddick. Could throw in Chastain too. But yeah, the championship 4 at this point is just up for grabs, in my opinion. Byron, as of right now, though, he is a top 5 driver. He 100% is. Entering the season, at least, it remains to be seen if he performs like a top 5 driver this season. But based on what we have seen so far out of Byron, and based on what I expect out of him this season, he is a top 5 driver for sure. Okay, so anyways, moving on. Another driver. Let's talk about Chase Elliott. Because he is a driver, I've alluded to him a lot. When I made this list last year, I had Elliott as number 1. I had him over Larson. I remember he was number 1 and Larson was number 2 when I made this list last year, and it was largely because Elliott was the best overall driver in the regular season. He may not have been as he may not have been as explosive as Larson in this Gen 7 era, but I thought that Elliott was the more consistent, and I value more consistency over wins in even in this even in this no matter the generation of car, I always value more consistency over wins, and that's why I had Elliott as number one entering the 2023 season. Entering last year, I had Elliott as number one on my list. Between the snowboarding accident and the suspension with Hamlin, a lot of people are gonna say, yeah, Elliott had a pretty rough. But I mean, he still had how many races did Elliott run total? 29 races. He still had plenty of chances to win, and he just couldn't capitalize. Yeah, he still had 7 top 5s, 15 top 10s. Those are in 29 races. When you adjust those for a 36 race pace, those are rookie season stats. Chase Elliott's 2023 season was very comparable to his stats on 2023 were pretty much comparable to his rookie year in 2016. And it was pretty evident that Elliott was driving like a rookie, because it was not only the incident with Hamlin at the Coke 600 that got him suspended. It was also the incident with Larson at the September race at Kansas in the playoffs, late in the race when they have that final pit stop sequence that Elliott and Larson, I believe Larson just ran Chase one into the track. Chase didn't appreciate that, and then he just he sideswiped Larson coming off pit road, once again. Just frustration mounting on Chase's part, but that was also once again a rookie mistake, and that's just what I said. Elliott's 2023 was just basically just him making rookie mistakes like it was 2016 all over again. Only difference is that he's a champion now, and you don't expect Elliott just had moments where he didn't behave like a champion, and this is me talking from someone who likes Chase Elliott a lot. Elliott had a lot of suspect moments where I just could not defend him, and I could just do nothing but shake my head at what I was watching. And once again, this is one of the main reasons why I decided to go with tier maker for this list, because Elliott, he has a case to be a top 5 driver. Once again, a down year would not it's gonna take more than a down year for me to take Chase Elliott out of the top 5. He is still a top 5 driver, and I expect a bounce back year from him where he is in contention to make the championship 4 alongside his Hendrick teammates Larson and Byron. I do expect a bounce back year from Chase Elliott. He could potentially make it back to the championship 4 like he has done in years past. And again, this is one of the main reasons why I went with tier maker for this one, is because I just could not leave Chase Elliott out of the top 5. Because as you're gonna see here, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Byron, and Hamlin. Let's just put Hamlin here because just to make my case clear, these guys, all of these guys here, they have a case to be top 5 drivers. I just could not leave Chase Elliott out. To go from number 1 on, when I made this list last year, I had Elliott as my number 1. So for him to go from number 1 to out of the top 5 in just one season, just because he was winless, again, that's just a steep drop off, and I just could not bring myself to do it. But at the same time, I wanted to give Byron and Bell their flowers because they are top 5 drivers. And Denny Hamlin, despite his playoff shortcomings, he still runs. The stats show he is still a top 5 driver. And Ryan Blaney. The main reason that why I kept Ryan Blaney out of the top 5 is because he could not win a championship. He could not make the championship 4. Ryan Blaney proved me wrong on both of those arguments, and he proved me wrong on both of those fronts, and because of that, I gotta give him his flowers, and I also gotta put him in the top 5. Ryan Blaney, entering the season, is a top 5 driver because the defending champion, to me, is always a top 5 driver entering the following season. I had to put Ryan Blaney in the top 5. Bell and Byron, also top 5 drivers. Larson, in my opinion, is still number 1. I just cannot put Chase Elliott out of the top 5 at the same time. Like, I cannot put Chase Elliott out of the top 5, but at the same time, I cannot justify him. Like, I cannot justify anyone taking any one of these guys out of the top 5. So that's the main reason why I decided to go with this format here instead of, like, you know, the usual like video where I talk about top 5, the top 10 drivers, and then some honorable mentions. Because in this situation, entering this season, there are a couple of drivers that deserve to be, or at the very least, they have a case to be in the top 5. So that's why you see like top 5-ish, top 10-ish, top 15-ish. You can debate on who you want to take out on this list. I just couldn't bring myself, but it doesn't matter who you take out. What I want you guys to get from this video or from this live stream is that all of these guys, these 6 guys right here, they have a case to be top 5 as of right now. This is before the 2024 Daytona 500. This is before the 2024 season begins. As of right now, these are the 6 drivers that have a case to be top 5. You can take away any of these guys. You can take one of these guys out of the top 5. I won't really debate you guys on much because, again, it's pretty close between these guys. So, anyways, let's go now to the top 10-ish drivers on this list. Let's start with Martin Truex Jr. You know, if Truex didn't have the fall off that he did in the playoffs, he would have been, I would have put him here, like top 5-ish. Like, if he made if he was eliminated in the round of 8, like very closely, and if he was like competitive in the playoffs, then I would have definitely put him like top 5-ish as well, like alongside around where Hamlin is too. But unfortunately, he really showed his age. The guy just really showed his age. He didn't look like the regular season champion that we are used to seeing. And the fact that he made it to a round of 8, it's more of a miracle, and it can be attributed more to playoff points. Again, this is why the regular season matters, but Truex just didn't look like himself at all. And you just cannot argue that. And you just cannot argue that. That 10 race stretch, those last 10 races for the 19 team, it really painted a really grim picture of where Truex's career is going. And unfortunately, I do not expect much out of Truex coming into this season. As a matter of fact, looking at the playoff grid right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Truex gets eliminated in the round of 12. I could see Truex being eliminated in the round of 12 and not like just barely eliminated just because of having a bad stretch of races. It's just because he just doesn't have the speed anymore. And once again, you know, this is honestly a theme that I've seen like in my previous videos, because I rewatched my previous top 10 list before making these videos. I have always noticed how every time I talk about Truex, it's always like I always say like, yeah, Truex, I expect Truex to have a down year. I always expect Truex to have a down year. And every time, he just proves me wrong. But this time, as much as I hate to say it, because I like Truex, I don't say this because I hate Truex. I know some people may feel like I am underrating Truex, but I think like this time might be it. And Truex, I mean, he's not gonna go winless. I think he's gonna win like a race or two, but round of 8 is his ceiling. His days of like making the championship 4, they are over. He's still a top 10 driver though, simply because of that. Simply because of that regular season. Simply because of that regular season, and he's still. It's not even been 3 years since he last made the championship 4 in 2021. So that still matters. But again, going winless in 2022 and missing the playoffs, that's a huge black mark. Even if he was like the best, even if he was like a top 10 driver that season, you could argue he was a top 10 driver that season. Um, but yeah, Truex, I feel he's gonna have a down year compared to what he had in 2023. He's gonna have a down year. It's not to the point that I don't even consider him a top 5 driver. It's sad, really, because I always find myself underrating Truex, but it is what it is. I gotta say it like it is. The guy's also pretty close to retiring, so there's that. So, anyways, another driver that had a down year was Joey Logano. He entered last season as a defending champion, and he was I remember I had him like number 3 on the list. Now he goes from top 3 to just like in the top 10, like top 10ish. You know, he's still a top 10 driver, but that championship hangover just hit him really hard. Only one win, round of 16 elimination. The fact that he may not even be the best Penske driver, you know, Ryan Blaney finally taking the mantle away from Logano may actually take a toll on him, and that's another thing I do, and that's another thing I take into account when making this when making this driver like this driver rankings. It's how I feel of the driver compared to the rest of their teammates. And for years, I always had Logano over Blaney because, in my opinion, he was always the best Penske driver to me. But after him being eliminated in the first round, coupled with Blaney just going on a late season run to win the title, I feel like we might just be witnessing the changing of the guard at Penske, where Blaney becomes the new number 1 guy at Penske and Logano is more relegated to more of a second fiddle. Of course, again, you cannot always... Of course, again, you can never bet against Joey Logano, especially on an even year. You can always bet on Logano to have a bounce back year, especially after a down year like this one. Especially in an even numbered year. You know the trend with Logano, like every other year, even number year, he's a threat to make the championship for. Until that trend is snapped, I'm gonna continue believing in that trend. And again, Logano is a threat to make it to the championship for. Yes, he is. But at the moment, you know, it's impossible to predict what's going to happen with Logano. As it stands right now, I do expect Logano to have a bounce back year, but at the moment he's like a top 10ish driver. That championship hangover hit him really hard, and I just cannot put him right here alongside these heavy hitters. Right now I'm putting him right next to Truex. Another driver that I feel had another driver that I expected much out of, you know, surprisingly enough, is Kyle Busch. Another driver that had a great regular season, but then fell off once the playoffs began. Kyle Busch just had it really rough because if you remember the first 15 races, he looked like the Kyle Busch of old, and not only did he look like the Kyle Busch of old, he looked like the guy that could actually like maybe carry RCR to a championship 4 appearance. I remember when Kyle Busch won that race at Gateway, that was like his 3rd win of the season, and it was just like race 15. I immediately thought that Kyle Busch may actually be a championship 4 for the title, like a dark horse contender for the title, simply because of how he was elevating RCR. But then the second half of the season came through. Like, he was scoring top 5s, yeah, occasionally, and you know, top 10s too, but they were getting harder to come by. And the second half of the season, it pretty much mirrored like his final year at JGR in 2022, where it was like yeah, if he finishes in the top 10, it's a miracle. But you expect him to be, um, you kind of expect him to be more of a, you kind of expect him to be more of a like top 20-ish guy. If he finishes the race, it's considered a win. A top 10 would be like a surprise. Top 5, a surprise as well. Um, but yeah, when you look at Kyle Busch's stats of 2022 and you compare them side by side to 2023, the only thing that stands out is like, yeah, he won 3 races, he got a couple more top 5s, but the top 10s were the same, and he actually finished what? One position lower in points than he did in 2022. I don't know. Maybe he finished 13th or 14th in 2022. I know he finished 14th in points. He didn't even finish like outside the top 10. He finished way outside the top 10 in this past season. So yeah, like Truex, Kyle Busch is another one of those guys that I feel he is on like the downturn of his career. I still expect him to win though, especially since if he wins this season, he's gonna extend that consecutive win streak all the way up to 20. Like, he already has the longest consecutive season win streak in NASCAR history, but it stands at 19 straight. If he wins one more race, it's like 20 straight, and like 20 is a more like magical number than 19. So my only expectation for Kyle Busch is just win a race or two, just to extend the streak. Just one race to extend this. Win just one race to extend the streak. Maybe 2, just to give us Kyle Busch fans a false sense of hope. But who am I kidding? Just one race and I'm happy. If he wins a race, if he wins just one race to extend the streak, that's all I want to see out of Kyle Busch. Like, I'll be happy. I'm not expecting a championship anymore. I've accepted that he's not winning a title again. But I just want to see that he can still compete for wins. He definitely showed in this past season, his first year with RCR. He can compete for wins, and at best, his ceiling can be like a dark horse championship for appearance. But more than that, I don't think so. More than that, it's just like a reach. Okay, so anyways, next up is Ross Chastain. If I made this list last year, I would have had Chastain, closer to like top 5-ish. This season was pretty rough on Chastain. Like, it started off pretty solid. He wasn't like winning races, but he was like scoring top 5s. He was pretty consistent. Then that Darlington race happened, the incident with Larson, and then Rick Hendrick gave him a talk, and I feel like a lot of people joke that that talk he had with Hendrick, like, it nerfed Chastain, quote unquote, so to speak. The results, he just wasn't putting up results. And then eventually, Nashville came around. He wins the pole, wins the race. But even then, the results, and people thought that Chastain would just bounce back from that win. Like, he would gain momentum. Momentum was just hard to come by. Trackhouse overall was just not the same team that they were last year. Chastain did manage to get some good runs, to put together some good runs in the playoffs. But in the end, he got eliminated in the round of 12 after, a crash at Talladega put him below the cut line, and he just could not recover from. Put him in a hole he just could not recover from. He did manage to close out the season in style, winning at Phoenix, becoming the first driver to win the season finale who's not in championship 4 in the playoff elimination era. Like, you guys don't understand how big of a deal that is, that a driver that was outside the championship 4 just went out and won a race when the precedent was, up until that point, was that usually championship 4 drivers dominate. Of course, with the Gen 7 car, it was an equalizer, but even with that fact, Joey Logano, who was a championship 4 driver in 2022, won the pole and just dominated the race. So Um, so even with the Gen 7 car being an equalizer, we didn't really think that the championship four that we didn't really think that the driver that was not in championship four would go out and win the race, and not just win the race, like lead the most laps. Chastain was far and away the best car at Phoenix, and it was definitely a pleasant surprise to see that version of Ross Chastain, because it builds momentum for next year. Chastain, in my opinion, is entering the season as a dark horse contender for the title. He's gonna get his 2 wins a year, like he has done the past 2 seasons. He's gonna win 2 races, and he's gonna pull up. And he may or may not pull off some heroic runs and ruffle some feathers along the way on his way to a round of 8 championship appearance, or on his way to a round of 8 in the playoffs. Maybe a championship 4. Maybe a championship 4 if he manages to, like, you know, pull some magic out of his ass. I know that the Hail Melon move or like the wall riding move is like illegal now, which to this day is still upset. It still really upsets me. But yeah, anyways, Chastain is pretty. I have pretty high hopes for Chastain. I have him as one of my championship dark horses for this upcoming year. He may not make the championship 4. I don't see him making it to the championship 4. But if the cars align straight, if the cars like are put in the right place and Chastain's like in position, you know for a fact he's gonna seize the moment. If he's in position to win, he's gonna seize the moment and take it all the way for himself. That is if the opportunity presents itself. Because again, when it comes to Ross Chastain, the circumstances just have to be perfect for the magic to occur. So, I don't think Chastain is gonna make the championship 4. Especially not with these guys laying around. As a matter of fact, you see, I'm putting him in the top 10-ish list, not top 5-ish. Again, like I said, if I was making this list like last year, he would have been closer to here. But even if he won 2 races, I still consider 2023 a down year simply because he was eliminated in the round of 12 when I expected him to be out like in the round of 8. But anyways, I do expect Chastain to be a factor. He is one of my championship dark horses, alongside the other guy that I am putting on my top 10 here, Tyler Reddick. And you see, again, I was rewatching my older videos of like top 10 NASCAR drivers entering the 2021-2022 season. I always had, and something that I always noticed is that I always had Tyler Reddick outside the top 10. And when I was making this video, I originally had Tyler Reddick outside the top 10 as well. And once again, this is another one of those drivers, alongside the other being Chase Elliott. You know, Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick are like the 2 main reasons I decided to go with the tier maker for this year. Instead of doing a regular upload and like saying like top 10 drivers plus honorable mentions, because Tyler Reddick, I originally had him like just outside the top 10, and it just didn't feel right for me. But at the same time, it also didn't feel right for me to like take any one of these guys out of the top 10. So in the end, I decided, you know, Tyler Reddick has a case to be a top 10 driver. You just take your pick on which driver you want to take out of these guys. But yeah, Reddick, he finally made the deep playoff run that we had all been waiting for. He won 2 races only. Yeah, he only won 2 races. And he only had like, you know, 10 top 5s, 15 top 10s. His stats were very similar to his 2022 season with RCR. 1 less win, but more, the same amount of top 5s, a couple of more top 10s. But what really matters is the timing in which those good runs came, because Reddick most of his most of his better runs they came during the playoffs when they matter most. The win at Kansas, finishing top 5 for the Southern 500 as well. Of course, the win at Kansas. Then starting from the pole and scoring big stage points at the Roval below the cut line, might I add, to advance to the round of 8. Reddick was low-key clutch in the playoffs. A lot of people talk about Christopher Bell as being the most clutch driver in the playoffs, but his Toyota teammate Tyler Reddick, he also had some pretty clutch moments of his own in this playoffs with the win between the win at Kansas and then making up a huge points deficit to make it entering below the cut line at the Roval and then starting from the pole and scoring huge stage points and finishing like top 10 to advance to the next round. Reddick also clutched up. So because of that, I feel like he deserves at the very least a nod, a case to be a top 10 driver. It just didn't feel right for me to leave him outside the top 10. But again, it's very hard to justify taking one of these guys out to make room for Reddick. But at the same time, Reddick deserves to be a top 10 driver, so there's that. He has a case to be a top 10. You guys go ahead and debate who do you think should be outside, should be left off. Another driver that I also had outside the top 10, but has a solid case to make it in, is Chris Buescher and his teammate / team owner Brad Keselowski. So RFK, they just had a resurgence, an absolute resurgence of a season. Buescher won 3 races. Both cars made it to the playoffs. Both cars made it out of the first round. Keselowski was eliminated in the round of 12, but Buescher made it all the way to a round of 8, where he just eventually fizzled out because they just didn't have enough. They just didn't have enough to compete. But regardless of how the season ended, it still doesn't take away from the fact that RFK, they were the biggest surprise of this past season. And because of that, both Buescher and Keselowski, they deserve to also have a case to be top 10 drivers. Buescher, of course, being the breakout driver of last season, along with William Byron. Buescher, of course, I do expect more out of him than I do out of Keselowski. But at the end of the day, I do expect both RFK cars to win. Keselowski, he's only going to win one race. As a matter of fact, I think that race is going to be the Daytona 500. I'm just putting that out there now. Keselowski, I'm picking him to win the 500. As for Buescher, I do think he's only going to win one race as well. But he's going to be pretty solid. He's going to be pretty solid. If he doesn't finish top 10 or top 5, he's going to be running like, in that 15th place range. Same thing as Keselowski. The RFK group, they have definitely managed to turn it up a notch when it comes to consistency. And again, like I said, I value consistency a lot when it comes to evaluating a driver. And Buescher was arguably the most consistent driver on the grid this past season. Like, if he wasn't, you rarely saw in DNF, and if he didn't finish top 10, you could always see him finishing like top 15, top 20, like mid pack. If his bad days, like you see what I mean, his bad days weren't as bad as, let's say, a Kyle Larson. Larson was a checkers or records guy. Buescher was not that type of guy. He was more consistent than anything. Of course, what ended up, dooming him was the lack of stage points. So he's got to work on that, because, running 15th place all race is not going to get you any stage points. So, if the expectation that I have for the RFK group is just go out and run off front more and score more stage points than you guys did last year, because there is potential there. There is potential. Although I don't know, an argument can be said that I don't know how much they can improve, because you can argue that they hit their ceiling last year, or they hit close to their ceiling last year. I still do think that they have another level that they can go up to. Not quite dark horse levels like Reddick or Chastain, but I feel like Chris Buescher can be a sleeper pick for the Championship 4. And if the Championship 4 is at Phoenix, you guys better watch out, because a lot of people may look at Ross Chastain as a guy to watch out for if he's in the Championship 4 at Phoenix. But Chris Buescher, he also won a stage at Phoenix. Again, Buescher is a guy that a lot of people often overlook. Hopefully, after this 3-win season last year, a lot of people start paying more attention to him. And finally, these guys, these last 4 drivers, they are top 15-ish. As you can see here, these guys will be like 14, 15, 16, 17. As you can see, there are 17 drivers here. The bottom 4 here, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, Daniel Suarez. 2 of these guys are going to be left out of the top 15. But again, you can make your case as to which of these guys are going to be left out. I feel like Bubba Wallace is like a surefire top 15 driver, but the main reason I put him here and not here is because Bubba is just not as good as these guys, but he is good enough to be a top 15 driver. Same goes to Alex Bowman. And Bowman is interesting because when Bowman is like at his best, let's just say like 2021 Alex Bowman, he has a chance to be a top 10 driver. As a matter of fact, again, go rewatch my older videos of top 10 NASCAR drivers entering whatever season. Go rewatch my older videos. I have always put Alex Bowman around the number 10 range, just like the last driver in the top 10. And that was because I always felt like Bowman was one of the more like underrated drivers. But this season is different because Bowman is, he's coming back from a back injury, a concussion he suffered back in 2022, and now a back injury. And you have to wonder at some point. Yes, he is driving a Hendrick car, but at some point you gotta wonder if those injuries are eventually gonna stack up and they're gonna affect his performance. Like, let's say, ironically, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the guy that Alex Bowman ended up replacing when he signed with Hendrick. Junior battled concussions basically his entire career. He battled concussions his entire career, and Bowman, it's not just concussions that he is battling, it's also like back injuries and stuff like that. So honestly, I really hope Bowman just doesn't fizzle out. I really hope he, at the very least, if he doesn't make the playoffs, I really hope he's like at the very least a very competitive like bubble driver. Daniel Suarez, same thing. And speaking of Suarez, I feel like, there's starting to be some pressure mounting on him, especially since Trackhouse was very active in the offseason with Zane Smith, Van Gisbergen. They even signed Connor Silage to be their first true development driver. So with all of these signings, and with Ross Chastain, being like having established as himself as the number 1 guy at Trackhouse, you can see how Suarez is like the odd man out and how the pressure is mounting on him to perform. I think the battle for the playoff bubble is going to be between these 4 guys. And because there are 17 guys total on this list, that means that one of them is going to be left out. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to you guys are gonna have to wait until I make the until I stream the video tomorrow about my playoff predictions. But you can get a good idea by looking at this chart. You can get a good idea of who I think. You can get a better idea of who I think will be, at who I will leave out, because again there are 17 guys here and there are 16 playoff spots to fill. So one of these guys is gonna be left out. You can take a wild guess at who this is, but I'm just saying, Suarez, he has a ton of pressure. Or not really a ton of pressure right now, because he still has like until 2025 is his contract year. But there's no better time like the present to start like making some noise, of the good kind, of course. But again, like I said, Suarez got to start thinking about, performing, returning to the playoffs, going back to that like 2022 form where he like almost made it to round of 8 if it wasn't for that mechanical failure at the Roval. He's definitely going to start stepping it up, because he's definitely going to start stepping it up, and at the very least becoming like a bubble driver in the playoffs, similar to Alex Bowman. To get like a case of, to start like making his own case of like, yeah, I deserve to stay at Trackhouse. You guys better, even with all of these new signings that you have, you guys can still keep me. You guys can still keep me, because I still have some so much to offer for you guys. Suarez got to start making his case now, because again, with all of these signings that Trackhouse made, it's not looking very good. It's not looking very good for him. That 99 ride that was pretty much a security for him for the past couple of seasons, it all of a sudden is now in jeopardy now. He's starting to get some pressure that he's starting to feel some pressure that he didn't have since 2019 when he was a Stewart Haas. All of these past seasons have been pressure free. Now the pressure started to mount again, and he's got to perform. So, similar to Alex Bowman, Suarez has got to stay close to the playoff. I expect Suarez to stay close to the playoff bubble, and top 15. Rounding out these drivers that I believe have a case to be top 15. Ty Gibbs. I think Ty Gibbs is going to avoid the sophomore slump. I know. And I know what you people may be thinking. I'm gonna be talking about his performance at the Clash. He was the car to beat. And again, a lot of people are gonna say like, but it's the Clash. And you're right, it's the Clash. I should not like be taking stuff like this pretty. I shouldn't be taking what we did of the Clash for and take it as it is. But what I saw from Ty Gibbs in the Clash, it's really a sign of things to come, especially at the shorter, flatter tracks like New Hampshire, Martinsville, Pocono. The Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas have been a force at those type of tracks. And with his performance at the LA Coliseum, I think Ty Gibbs is also going to be a force at those tracks. And he's going to start like, if he wins a race, his first career win is going to come at either one of these flat tracks or on a road course. I'm calling it right now. Ty Gibbs is winning a race this year, and he is going to lock himself into the playoffs with that win. He's going to avoid the sophomore slump. Again, I have high expectations for Ty Gibbs, and if he exceeds them, I could very well put him here, like having him a case for the top 10. But again, as it stands right now, I am not gonna rank drivers based on potential. I don't wanna factor potential too much into my ranking. So as of right now, Ty Gibbs is here, still a top 15 driver. After his rookie year, being a top 15 driver after his rookie year, with a lot of upside, that's a very good place to be in. And not many rookies have been able to be like, especially in recent memory, like not many rookies have been able to say that they have a case to be like top 15 after the rookie years. The last time I could think about a rookie like that was like Chase Elliott in 2016. After that rookie season, a lot of people had Chase Elliott as a top 10 driver entering 2017, and they definitely had a case for that. But ever since then, we haven't seen a driver be like, you know, have a case to be like top 10, top 15 after a rookie year. Like since 2016 Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs is just the first driver in 7 years to be like that. So again, I do think he's gonna avoid the sophomore slump, and I do think he's gonna make the playoffs with a win. So anyways, that's my top 10 or rather top 15, top 17-ish drivers. These are the rankings, just basically my rankings of how my version of the power rankings, if you so will, of how the drivers are. This is before the 2024 season begins too. So anyways, like I said, you can expect me to start streaming my playoff predictions video tomorrow, and then on Wednesday I'm gonna be streaming another video. It's gonna be the drivers and teams to watch for in 2024. And then on Thursday I'm gonna be live streaming my thoughts about the duels, because the duels are gonna be on Thursday. And then on Friday it's gonna be the truck race. Saturday is gonna be Xfinity. Sunday's gonna be the Cup race. I know the forecast isn't looking pretty. I saw on Twitter or X or whatever. I saw on Twitter that the forecast was gonna look pretty ugly. That it was gonna rain at Daytona. You know how Mother Nature is with. You know how Mother Nature is NASCAR's biggest fan. But, anyways, who knows with Florida weather? But if everything goes as planned, it should be Friday the truck. You should get Friday the truck race, Xfinity on Saturday, Cup on Sunday, Daytona 500, and I am planning on like reacting to these races separately, because since I am live streaming my reactions, since I am live streaming my videos now, and I'm not doing like regular uploads as much, what I can do is I can just upload or live stream my thoughts on every single race like as it happens, and it's actually better because it keeps my thoughts fresh on my mind, and I don't have to like, you know, make as many notes on my phone. And you know, I also managed to remember like some facts about the race that I may not be able to once I go to sleep and go record a video the next morning. So honestly, I feel like live streaming is like the best way to go, because again, it helps me bring out much more content to you guys much more quicker. Yeah, the quality may not be the same as, you know, my other videos, because they are more unscripted as well, but my goal is just to get as much content out as possible for you guys. So anyways, that's the end of this video. It's almost 4 a.m., which means that I stayed up an hour live streaming. And anyways, that's it. Good night.